I mean, this clearly has been the biggest debacle of the Biden administration. And when it was happening, I mean, so many people had so much second guessing that they were doing. Once the decision was made to get out, what could have been done differently that would have made a real difference?
I think, once the decision was made to get out, there were a number of lawmakers who were sending letters to the White House basically saying, we need an evacuation plan similar to what occurred in Vietnam with Guam, or even in Kurdistan with Guam, where we would evacuate people, house them in Guam, and then handle their forward processing from there. Those requests basically fell on deaf ears. Now, I don't want to be unfair. I can understand why they fell on deaf ears in some respects, because the Biden administration is making this calculation that if we start in April of 2021 evacuating key people out of Afghanistan,
you're sending a message.
That's a very strong message. It's a vote of no confidence in the Afghan government. But because you don't make that decision, you are betting the farm again on this idea that there's going to be some type of an interval before the collapse. And they bet wrong. And they bet wrong in a big way. And the thing that probably could have been done better would have been a realization within the administration of okay, if we do bet wrong, if we don't get our decent interval, what's our contingency plan?
And it doesn't seem like they had one.
There was no contingency plan. And there was no contingency plan by how we would process Afghans who needed to go out, those who would work with us. There was no acceleration of the SIV program. In June of 2021, the SIV program basically ground to a halt because of a high number of COVID cases at the embassy. So when there was no decent interval, when we were evacuating everybody out, there was basically no process. And what you started to see happen was, because we live in the world we live in today, many veterans, journalists, all of the Americans who have 20 years worth of connections in Afghanistan are now being reached out to by their Afghan friends saying, please, you have to help us. And you kind of wound up with this massive, what's been called the digital Dunkirk, happening over the final weeks of August.
Now, the president flees, the government collapses, the Taliban take over. At that point, what should the Americans have been doing, should we be doing now that we're not, given that there are still a lot of people in Afghanistan that are desperate to get out, many of whom helped the United States, worked with the United States, some of whom even fought with the United States?
Well, I think the reality is our ability now, because we have no networks, no presence in Afghanistan, it's somewhat limited what we can do to get Afghans out of Afghanistan. But we aren't doing enough for the Afghans who we got out of Afghanistan. Many of the Afghans who've come to the United States for this special immigrant visa program are still sitting in limbo with regards to their immigration status. They're not able to work. Congress is trying to put forward legislation that will more quickly assimilate them into the workforce in the United States. And oh, by the way, at a time when we have very low unemployment, we need these people to come here and work. So that is an area where we can actually make real progress. Yes, there should still be efforts to get people out of Afghanistan. But again, it becomes very problematic because when we left, we didn't leave any residual anything behind in Afghanistan. And so that becomes challenging. But, we should continue.
No, we left a lot of Jeeps.
We left plenty of equipment.
Yeah.
But absolutely. We should still stay engaged and do the best we can. They're helping people get out of Afghanistan who have been approved for the special immigrant visa program if they can't, and also facilitating their onward migration into the United States.